In order for the plan to establish the kingdom of the Most High on earth to unfold without a hitch, it was essential that there be two Israels, one fake and one real. Today you'll discover a story worthy of a Hollywood movie, Operation Copperhead, which used the look-alike of Montgomery, the Allied general-in-chief, to deceive the Germans about a potential Normandy landing. Spring 1944. The tension is at its maximum, the landing of the Allies is imminent. But no one yet knows its date or place. A few months before D-Day, numerous diversionary operations were organized to distract the Germans from the Normandy coast. These operations have been grouped together under the code name, Fortitude. Among them, Copperhead, which consisted in employing the double of Montgomery, General-in-Chief of the Allied troops. A few months before D-Day, leafing through the News Chronicle, Lieutenant Colonel J.V.B. Jarvis Reed, second in command of the Special Resources Committee, discovers a photo of an Australian actor, who looks like Monty. The man in question is Merrick Edward Clifton James. A native of Australia, he served in the British Army as a pay officer. This photo gives him an idea. Why not use this actor to deceive the German secret services? Lieutenant Colonel Jarvis Reed contacts Army Film Service Colonel actor David Niven and asks him to summon James to London under any pretext. Colonel Niven, assisted by his orderly, actor Peter Ustinov, then gives him tests and they are amazed by his physical resemblance to Montgomery. However, his voice and his gestures are very different from that of Montgomery. Another major problem: James is an alcoholic and smokes excessively. Monty did not tolerate his subordinates smoking and drinking in his presence. James is therefore put on a dry diet. The fateful Normandy landing date is fast approaching and the Australian actor is still not ready to take on the role. Admitted to the staff of Monty in order to study him as well as possible. He takes intensive courses in order to modify his voice and perfectly imitate the slightest usual gestures of his model. Meanwhile, British agents in the Mediterranean are spreading rumours of the general's upcoming arrival. He would come to carry out an inspection visit as part of a massive landing in the south of France. On May 25, 1944, the operation was launched at 6 a.m. James leaves Whitehall in full uniform. Faced with the journalists summoned for the occasion, his car drove him to the Royal Air Force RAF base in Northolt, where a plane to Gibraltar was waiting. As the fake Monty passes, rumors are circulating claiming that the general is leaving for North Africa. The British media thus massively relay the information. Arriving in Gibraltar, during a reception in the governor's house, he repeatedly alludes to the Plan 303, which plans to invade the south of France. The German secret services capture this information and relay it to Berlin. The trap works. James then flew to Algiers to meet the commander-in-chief of the Mediterranean sector, General Maitland Wilson. Our fake Montgomery appears on a balcony, waving maps at the sea. He is then sent to Cairo where he remains locked in a hotel room until D-Day. The day before the Normandy landings, the Germans had let their guard down. Rommel, responsible for the defense of the Channel coasts, was in Berlin to celebrate his wife's birthday before an interview with Hitler and the staff of the 7th German Army. Responsible for the defense of Normandy, was on leave in Rennes, 185 kilometers by road from Caen. After the war, Clifton James quickly fell into oblivion. In 1954 he published his exploits in a book titled, I Was Monty's Double, which was released to the screen 4 years later. The intelligence of men comes from the creator, Tata N. Zambi Yamazulu. If the Allied headquarters could work out such a decoy to deceive the Germans, imagine what the Almighty himself can do when it comes to deceiving and ridiculing men. But before we go any further, we need to define what exactly a decoy is. A bird or mammal, or its imitation, used by hunters to attract other birds or mammals. Verb. To bait or attract. A person or an animal, far from its intended course, typically into a trap. You will understand that the sine qua non for a decoy to work is that it must be larger than life. This is the reason why actor Merrick James had to undergo intensive training to look point by point like General Montgomery, whom he was to replace. Once this point is assimilated and understood, let's go to our topic of the day. In order for the prophecies of a secret return of Christ to be fulfilled, there had to be a delusion. And this decoy had to be so powerful, so larger than life, that it could put the whole world on the wrong track. And this false trail is called Israel the White. What could be more eloquent than fake images to deceive people? So, observe and analyze the following images. So, it must be understood the relentlessness efforts of the white world in general, of Europeans in particular, to erase all traces of blacks from geographic regions which have weighed a great deal in the so-called white culture, comes from the Most High. Hence the mastery with which the substitution of the true people of the Most High, Isilele, by a fake chosen people, Israel, took place. The first masterstroke of the Most High was the separation of the two peoples on the basis of color, just like two sports teams having to play a match. It would be stupid, wouldn't it, if the protagonists of this confrontation were dressed exactly alike, with the same color. So Isilele is black and Israel is white. As inevitably the two peoples had to live together at a certain time in their history, which is confirmed by many passages in the Bible, such as Genesis chapter 17. 12 At the age of 8 days every male among you shall be circumcised, according to your generations, whether born in the house, or acquired with money from every stranger's son, not belonging to your race. Or Leviticus chapter 22, 18. Speak unto Aaron, and to his sons, and to all the children of Israel, and say unto them, every man of the house of Israel, or of the strangers in Israel, that shall offer a burnt offering to the Lord, either for the fulfillment of a vow or as a voluntary offering. It took the Almighty to imagine a definite way to determine who is who at the appropriate time, that is, when it comes to re-establishing the kingdom of Isilele, Acts 1, 6. This inviolable means, because of its sociological and genetic rigor, was the establishment of the 12 Mavala Ma Congo, known around the world as the 12 tribes of Israel. So when the Babylonian priests set about translating into their language the sacred texts bequeathed by Moses to the 12 tribes, the Lord was in the process. When this region, which originally belonged to the Negro world, indeed Nimrod, who was the builder of all these cities, Babel, Erech, Akkad, Calneh, Ashur, Nineveh, Rehoboth here, Genesis chapter 10. 9-12, was the son of Kosh, Kosi, therefore unquestionably black, became by successive migrations of the Caucasian race, first of mixed race then predominantly white. The Almighty was in charge. When the Persians, current Iranians and Iraqis, then the Greeks, then the Romans dominated Canaan, that is to say Palestine, Tartar Nzambi was in the driver's seat. When the former priests of Babylon who converted to Judaism imposed themselves and gradually removed the tribes of Isilele from the reins of power. In particular thanks to the support of Herod the Great, builder of the Temple of Jerusalem but himself a foreigner of Idumean origin, the Most High pulled the strings behind the curtains. When these Babylonian priests as well as King Herod learned that the Messiah, belonging to the tribe of Judah, therefore necessarily black was born. They felt the danger and did everything to eliminate the anointed of the Lord, Kusua Congo, hence the flight to Africa, to Egypt of Joseph, Mary and the divine child. Tata Nzambi was in control. When Christ was condemned to the torture of the cross in accordance with the prophecies, cf. Psalm chapter 22 and Isaiah chapter 53, and after his death and resurrection, Judaism and its rites were rendered null and void. Thus the destruction of the temple, which was no longer useful in the year 70 of our era, the Most High moved his pawns on the chessboard of history. When the 12 tribes left the region of Canaan, whose etymology is Kanina and Nkanu in Kakongo, to settle in the center of the world, on the navel of the earth, everything was planned by Tata Nzambi himself. When centuries later, the 12 Mavalis were invaded by Europeans and enslaved some time later, these were in fulfillment of the prophecies of the Creator. Especially Deuteronomy chapter 28, 15–68. The first slaves were kidnapped from Congo DR Totola and arrived in America, Virginia, on August 20, 1619. This is the indubitable proof that Congo people are the true chosen of the Almighty, because no other people in the world have realized the biblical prophecies with such accuracy. Now the prophesied 400 years, Genesis chapter 15, 13, Acts 7, 6–7, were fulfilled in August 2019, 70 years after the outpouring of the Holy Spirit in the city of Lyon, Leopoldville, in the heart of Africa. Therefore the Messiah of Isilele, who took a new name, Revelation chapter 3, 12, in this case Simeon Toko, is now calling the daughter of Zion, his diaspora, his people scattered in North, Central, South America, the West Indies and the Caribbean, to come back home, Zephaniah chapter 3, 9–10. Do you believe that this plan, drawn up by the Almighty from time immemorial and intended to bring on earth the establishment of a new order under the reign of Christ, could have been accomplished if there had not existed a fake Israel, a decoy, capturing the world's attention in Palestine while everything was brewing in Africa? Could this plan have come true? The answer is 3 times no. The time is therefore near when the truth about Isilele, the true one, and Israel, the fake one, will come to light. It will be the greatest revolution in human history since creation. Pastor Mello. Ingata.
Tangwame yasala ilungiti.